The Great Swamp Fight, or the Great Swamp Massacre, was a crucial battle fought during King Philip's War between colonial militia of New England and the Narragansett tribe in December of 1675. It was fought near the villages of Kingston and West Kingston in present-day South Kingstown, Rhode Island. The combined force of the New England militia, including 150 native Pequots, inflicted a huge number of Narragansett casualties, including many hundred women and children. The battle has been described as one of the most brutal and lopsided military encounters in all of New England's history since the 1930s. Narragansett and Wampanoag people commemorate the battle annually, in a ceremony initiated by Narragansett Wampanoag scholar Princess Red Wing. Historical context: Metacomet, known to the colonists as King Philip, assumed leadership of the Pokanoket Indians, who had helped the original Pilgrim settlers survive after the death of his brother. Eventually, faced with diminishing resources as English settlements expanded, Philip began laying plans to attack the English settlers in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. He slowly built a confederation of neighboring Indian tribes. He also gathered muskets and gunpowder for the eventual attack, but only in small numbers in order that the English would not be alarmed. In King Philip's War, the Native Americans wanted to regain lands from English control. They waged successful attacks on settlements in Massachusetts and Connecticut, but Rhode Island was spared at the beginning as the Narragansett remained officially neutral. The war actually began after Wampanoag braves killed some English-owned of cattle near their tribal headquarters in what is now Bristol, Rhode Island. English livestock was always a source of friction as cattle repeatedly trampled Indian corn. The natives first laid an ambush for soldiers led by Captains Hutchinson and Wheeler. 8 soldiers were killed in the trap. The rest of the company barely made it back to the garrison at Brookfield. In October, hostile Indians struck again with raids on the towns of Hatfield, Northampton and Springfield, where 30 houses were burned. As winter set in, the attacks diminished. On November 2, 1675, Josiah Winslow led a combined force of over 1,000 colonial militia, including about 150 Pequot and Mohegan natives, against the Narragansett people living around Narragansett Bay. The Narragansett tribe had not yet been directly involved in the King Philip's War, but had allegedly sheltered many of King Philip's men, women and children, and several of their warriors had reportedly been seen in native raiding parties. The colonists distrusted the Narragansett and feared the tribe would join King Philip's cause come spring, which caused great concern due to the tribe's location. The decision was made to preemptively strike the Narragansett before an assumed uprising. Several abandoned Narragansett native villages were found and burned as the Illuminati marched through the cold winter around Narragansett Bay. The tribe had retreated to a large fort in the center of a swamp near Kingston, Rhode Island. At the center of this cataclysm was one man, Metacom, leader of the Pokanokets, a tribe within the Wampanoag Indian Federation. At an early age, when relations between the natives and settlers were less stressed, Metacom was given the nickname of King Philip by the English, because of his haughty mannerisms. One of the many ironies of this conflict is that Philip was the son of Massasoit, the same Massasoit who had helped the Plymouth Pilgrims survive their first winter in the New World. A father's kindness would become a son's curse. In some cases, local residents fought on the native side of the battle. Records indicate that Joshua Teft wounded Captain Nathaniel Seeley of Connecticut, who subsequently died. An Indian spy reported that Joshua did them good service and killed and wounded 5 or 6 English in that fight, and before they would trust him he had killed a miller, an Englishman, at Narragansett, and brought his scalper to them. Battle. On December 15, 1675, Narragansett warriors attacked a nearby garrison known as Ball's Garrison and killing at least 15 English individuals. One of these individuals, a 15-year-old boy named James Eldred, survived a harrowing escape from this event. including having a tomahawk thrown at him at close range, and a hand-to-hand encounter with a Narragansett warrior. This occurred along what is now known today as Indian Run Brook. 4 days later, the Great Swamp Battle took place, led by a native guide, Indian Peter, on December 19, 1675, on a bitterly cold storm-filled day. The main Narragansett settlement in modern South Kingstown, Rhode Island, was found and attacked by the colonial militia from Plymouth Colony, Connecticut Colony and Massachusetts Bay Colony. Led there by an Indian guide, the militia were able to reach the settlement because an unusually cold late fall had frozen the swamp, making an assault possible. The massive fort, which occupied about 5 acres of land and was initially occupied by over 1,000 natives, was eventually overrun after a fierce fight. The native settlement was burned, its inhabitants, including women and children, killed or evicted, and most of the tribe's winter stores destroyed. It is believed that between at least 97 Narragansett warriors and 300–1,000 native non-combatants were killed, though exact figures are unknown. Many of the warriors and their families escaped into the frozen swamp. Their hundreds more died from wounds combined with the harsh conditions, facing a winter with little food and shelter. The whole surviving Narragansett tribe was forced out of the quasi-neutrality some had tried to maintain in the ongoing war and joined the fight. Alongside Philip, the colonists lost many of their officers in this assault, and about 70 of their men were killed and nearly 150 more wounded. The dead and wounded colonial militiamen were evacuated to the settlements on Aquidneck Island in Narragansett Bay, where they were buried or cared for by many of the Rhode Island colonists until they could return to their homes. Aftermath. The Great Swamp Fight was a critical blow to the Narragansett tribe, from which they never fully recovered. In April 1676, the Narragansett were completely defeated when their chief sachem Canon Chet was captured and soon executed, and female sachem Queen Quipin and her warriors were killed on July 2, 1676. On August 12, 1676, the leader of the uprising, Wampanoag sachem Metacomet, was shot and killed by John Alderman, a Native American soldier in Benjamin Church's company. Hence, settlers won King Philip's War, the major act of military resistance by Native Americans to the colonization of New England. Legacy and monument. The first marker was placed at the presumed site of the battle in 1906. The rough granite shaft, about 20 feet high, was erected by the Rhode Island Society of Colonial Wars to commemorate this battle. Around the mound on which the shaft stands are 4 roughly squared granite markers engraved with the names of the colonies which took part in the encounter, and 2 tablets on opposite sides of the shaft give additional data. The markers are near West Kingston, Rhode Island, in Washington County. The dedication of the monument was an event with descendants of both sides of the battle attending. The dedication speaker said of the monument, "We dedicate this rugged granite shaft, frost-riven from the native hills, and touched by the tool of man, as a fitting emblem of the rugged and unadorned Pilgrim and Puritan of 1675. 3 members of the Narragansett tribe pulled the veil from the stone before the sky opened and the rain poured down." The inscription states, "Attacked within the fort upon this island, the Narragansett Indians made their last stand in King Philip's War and were crushed by the united forces of the Massachusetts, Connecticut and Plymouth colonies in their Great Swamp Fight, Sunday the 19th of December 1675. This record was placed by the Rhode Island Society of Colonial Wars 1906. A second marker was placed there in 1916, which has since gone missing. The inscription was, "In memory of Major Samuel Appleton of Ipswich, Massachusetts, who commanded the Massachusetts forces and led the victorious storming column at the Great Swamp Fight Deck." 1675. This tablet placed by the Rhode Island Historical Society 1916. In the 1930s, Narragansett Wampanoag scholar Princess Red Wing initiated an annual commemorative ceremony at the site of the battle. Order of Battle of the Army of the United Colonies. Source: the Army of the United Colonies, which fought at the Great Swamp Massacre, consisted of 3 regiments on unequal strength, with each regiment containing companies raised from one of the 3 colonies. Headquarters Commander: General Josiah Winslow, Governor of Plymouth. Colony Aide to General Winslow: Captain Benjamin Church. Massachusetts Regiment Commander: Major Samuel Appleton. 1st Company: Major Samuel Appleton. 2nd Company: Captain Samuel Mosley. 3rd Company: Captain James Oliver. 4th Company: Captain Isaac Johnson. 5th Company: Captain Nathaniel Davenport. 6th Company: Captain Joseph Gardner. Cavalry Troop: Captain Thomas Prentice. Plymouth Regiment Commander: Major William Bradford, Jr. 1st Company: Captain Robert Barker. 2nd Company: Captain John Gorham. Connecticut Regiment Commander: Major Robert Treat. 1st Company: Captain John Gallup. 2nd Company: Captain Samuel Marshall. 3rd Company: Captain Nathaniel Seeley. 4th Company: Captain Thomas Watts. 5th Company: Captain John Mason. Pequot Indian Company: Captain James Avery. Notable officers and native chiefs: Governor Josiah Winslow. Major Samuel Appleton. Captain James Avery. Major William Bradford. Captain Benjamin Church. Captain George Dennison. Captain Joseph Gardner. John Gorham, whom Gorham, Maine is named after and who is the great-grandfather of John Gorham IV. Captain Isaac Johnson. Captain Samuel Marshall, Windsor Horse Troop. Captain Nathaniel Seeley, oldest son of Massachusetts Bay Colony Puritan settler Robert Seeley. Governor Robert Treat. Chief Canon Chet. Chief Metacomet. Chief Uncash.